studio today. What has happened? Cass, by the way, why isn't what happened there? Can you put that back on your mic, please?
We're all over the place.
Yeah, a lot going on today. Papa Cass is in this morning. Why is it so? Is it your fault that it's so hot? I've got a funny feeling it might be. I got a funny feeling that it might be. It is unbearable.
I'm feeling fine. There's a fan right
Yeah, but it's a
behind me.
tiny-ass fan because we never actually fit. We had this giant fan that stopped working. John Colson said, hey, man, can you get me a new fan? He's like, yeah, no problem. This is what he got. And then I just sort of didn't deal with it after that. I was like, okay. And just sort of, because it wasn't 1,000 degrees in the studio. Oh, my God. Can feel the sweat coming off of me right now. It's miserable in the studio today. Cass, by the way, delivered a home run presentation at her internship showcase last Friday. It was amazing. I mean, it was phenomenal. Did you fire up a new video for us?
I did.
Not worried about why it happened. Just
okay.
Do we have a new broadcast running? Thank you. That's what I need to know. Very good. We will share that one out instead. Okay, from let me find this. We unfortunately it does say we have a guest coming on today named Joe, J-O-H Charles. Don't know who that is, but that's okay.
Is this Joe?
J-O-H is what it says. Ja, maybe is it Ja Rule? No, it's we will get. It's fine. It's fine. Life will go on. Nothing we can do about it at this point. Nothing we can do about it. Not our finest hour. Not our.
I definitely know his name is Josh Charles.
I believe that you do.
And his name's Josh Charles in the description.
No, it's not. Oh, it might be in the description. Sorry. In the title, it definitely says J-O-H Charles. That's definitely a thing.
Oh,
yeah.
I must have missed it. Yes.
Clearly. Clearly that's the case. I don't know what else the case could be exactly.
I
That's
could start a new video for a third
nope,
time.
Nope. We'll just go with this. That's what we're doing. From David. David said, Glenn, enjoyed your conversation with Peter King yesterday. It was great insight as to the way that Ravens think. My question as the weekend unfolded, are you as convinced as Rita is that the plan for the Ravens was to swap the pick and then take a receiver with their first pick? Are you as convinced that what the other teams did really screwed them up with 4 picks or 4 wide receivers going off the board before the 14th pick? I ask these questions because I'm trying to figure out exactly where they find themselves in the context of the question you asked yesterday of measuring the draft versus measuring whether they're a Super Bowl contender. Am I convinced of that? No, not at all. I'm not remotely convinced of that. It would be very unlike the Ravens to center in on any one position with that pick. Now, if their thought was that they expected the draft to play out a certain way and that a top wide receiver would be available with that pick, that would make some sense. And then maybe things didn't play out the way they expected it to. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I understand the theory, and I understand the reasoning for the theory. Why work out a deal so far ahead of time and then do nothing at wide receiver in free agency? As Mike Golick pointed out yesterday, like those of you that are sitting around hoping for the Ravens to trade for DK Metcalf or whatever they're going to do, they had plenty of time to try to be aggressive with the wide receiver position. So why keep a trade so secretive if it wasn't because you wanted a wide receiver? You could have just announced the trade a month and a half ago if you weren't hell-bent on getting a receiver with the first pick. And that's fair. Truly it is. It's truly fair. Now, maybe they wanted to know a little bit more about what might be available with the 23rd pick. They're doing their own recon, and they're trying to get a feel for what they think other teams are going to do. So maybe they wanted to get a bit more of a feel of what other teams were thinking about for the 23rd pick without knowing that it would be the Ravens that would be selecting there. And as it turns out, they ended up selecting at 25. But the question of why they felt the need to keep this so secretive for so long, if they weren't going to take a wide receiver early on, is fair. It's a fair question. It's not definitive proof that they misfired here, that they thought things were going to go a certain way and they didn't, but it's a fair question. Why? Other trades, teams announced other trades. Not everyone was so fearful of people knowing what it is that they intended to do. The Chiefs and Dolphins executed a trade. The Packers and the Raiders executed a trade. Other teams announced trades. Why did the Ravens work out a trade and not announce it? Was it a favor to the Cardinals because the Cardinals knew that something was pending with DeAndre Hopkins and they didn't want the trade to be known until that became public? I don't know. Again, I don't have these answers. I don't think it's a certainty that the answer is the Ravens were hiding the trade because they were definitely going to take a wide receiver with the 14th pick. The theory is reasonable. It's reasonable. We'll do this. We'll get whatever is the best receiver that's sitting there at 14 of this group. If it's Olave, we'll take Olave. If it's Jameson Williams, we'll take Jameson Williams. Whoever it is, we'll take that guy. We'll feel good about that. And suddenly all four of them go off the board, and the Ravens are like, well, we like Jahan Dotson, but not... Sorry, I didn't realize your foot was there, Ken. We don't like him that much. All reasonable questions and all questions I can't give definitive answers to, and the Ravens aren't going to give us definitive answers to them. But was it a guarantee they were going to take a receiver with the 14th pick? I don't think so. And the DeAndre Hopkins thing is complicating. You have to imagine the Cardinals have known about this for some time, and there was a process that was unfolding, and that factored into their decision. So if we're to believe the timeline of when the Cardinals worked out the Hollywood Brown trade, then we know they've known about it for a very long time. So perhaps they also still wanted to be in the wide receiver market in the draft and didn't want teams to know that. But if they had a Hollywood Brown deal worked out, perhaps teams... I don't know why they would have thought they would have been in the wide receiver market. I don't know why so secretive. I am struggling with that. I am struggling with why so secretive. Why the need to hold on this long? Was it to protect the DeAndre Hopkins thing? Was it really a thing for the Cardinals where if DeAndre Hopkins were to win on appeal, they wouldn't want anyone to know that was ever a time where they thought that this could have been an issue? Why so secretive? Reasonable question. Not one that we can get a direct answer to. And from Jeff. Jeff says, sorry, I'm losing these things. All right, Jeff says, Glenn, as far as your question yesterday, and I apologize, I wasn't listening live. I listened later on in the day. That's fine, Jeff. We appreciate it nonetheless. I feel like the Ravens have put themselves right in the mix of teams immediately after the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Bengals. I feel like everyone after that is in kind of a crapshoot in the AFC. To your point that this might ultimately come down to whoever is the healthiest, I think that's probably the case. The idea that all of these rosters are going to hold up as is does not seem to make a whole lot of sense. And as much as I like some of the players on each individual roster, I think what we're really saying is that we think that Josh Hill, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes are the three best quarterbacks in the moment at the AFC, so as long as those guys are healthy, we're showing deference to those teams. But bear in mind that a year ago we didn't feel that way about Burrow, and that just a couple of years ago we did feel that way about Lamar Jackson. It's an interesting way of looking at things. I would probably agree that I think that right now there's probably a separation between those three teams that I believe are the three best teams in the AFC. In whatever order. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, I think are the three best teams in the AFC for various reasons. But it starts with the quarterbacks. I think those teams, in judging, if I was doing a stupid power rankings right now, and I'll do plenty of them, and they'll be just as stupid when I do them, if I was doing a power rankings right now, those would be my three top teams in the AFC. And your point is correct, probably because uniquely they have the three best quarterbacks, the three most consistent quarterbacks last year. I like Justin Herbert a lot too, don't get me wrong, and I think Russell Wilson could still be really good. But the most consistent quarterbacks in the AFC a year ago were those three guys. And so the deference would be showed to them to start the season, which doesn't mean that by the end of the year, Justin Herbert couldn't prove himself to be the best of that group. Or that Patrick Mahomes doesn't take a bit of a step back without Tyreek Hill. I like Sky Moore. I think he's a player. I think they've got guys besides Travis Kelce. I think that we're really underselling how critical Tyreek Hill was to that offense, which doesn't mean I think they're going to be bad. I just think it could bring them a little bit closer to the rest of the pack. I do think those are my top 3 teams. But, yeah, I don't think the Ravens are drastically far behind that. I think they're in the mix behind those top 3 teams. I think they're in the conversation behind those top 3 teams in the AFC. And to the point that any one of those quarterbacks could get hurt or any of those teams could go through some sort of critical injury that changes the course of things, 100%. The Bengals lose Jamar Chase, they're a completely different team. They're still good. They still have a really good quarterback. They still have other good pass catchers. But Jamar Chase is a game changer. They lose Jamar Chase, they're not the same team. The Bills were to lose Stephon Diggs, they're not the same team. I love Gabriel Davis. I think he's incredible. But Stephon Diggs is a game changer. If those 2 teams keep quarterback and wide receiver on the field all season, I think it's going to be very difficult for anybody to beat them. The Chiefs are always very difficult to beat, of course. So, yeah, I think that's probably about right. I don't think the Ravens got themselves any closer to being one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. Of course, it doesn't matter if you're a top 3 team before the season begins. I get it. I'm aware. And I don't know if they could. Short of them being the team that traded for A.J. Brown, right? I don't know if there was a way this weekend, if the point is that because those three teams we identify based on the quarterbacks and how they played a year ago, I don't know if the Ravens could have gotten any closer this weekend. I think closing the gap might require just us seeing Lamar Jackson look like Lamar Jackson again. That's the only way that we can feel that. We still have to remember that the last thing we saw of him was a 4-game sample size of him badly struggling against the blitz. So if Lamar Jackson comes out to start this season, it looks like the Lamar Jackson we saw against the Colts, or like 2019 Lamar Jackson because they are overwhelming teams again with the run, then we might feel far different about where this team stacks up with teams like the Bengals and the Chiefs and the Bills as the season gets underway. I think that's probably about right. We're going to talk more about that, where the Ravens are amongst the top teams in the AFC, and just more about the fallout from this weekend in the NFL draft. Chris Sims is going to join us here in just 1 minute. Today's show is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today. Peter King, after he did our show yesterday, did a podcast where he talked about the fact that the Ravens essentially swapped Hollywood Brown, who was once the 25th pick, for a 25th pick. He was like, it's like buying a car for $50,000 and 3 years later selling it for $50,000. And the point is lost a little bit. It's not exactly like that, no. We can say the Ravens did well without trying to pretend like they swapped the first-round pick for a first-round pick. They switched a fourth-round pick for a third-round pick, is what they did. And that's fine. I still think they did well. Honestly, given the circumstances, they believe they had to trade Hollywood Brown. I think the Ravens did well for all of that, but we don't have to go beyond that. And when we say things like, well, the Ravens traded Hollywood Brown for a first-round pick, no, they didn't. They traded Hollywood Brown on a third-round pick for a first-round pick, and then they used that and went and recouped a fourth-round pick. So they swapped a fourth-round pick for a third-round pick. Now, that's okay. That's really good, but it's not dead on. And the other side of it is that now they don't have Hollywood Brown. And you can praise the Ravens all you want and say, hey, they did very well, but the analogy that Peter King used leaves out the part where you need a car and all that's left on the lot are Ford Tempos. Having $54,000 back doesn't help if you don't have anything to spend that money on. And it's the part of this conversation that, I get it, we all want to feel pretty. We all want to believe that our team did very well. Trust me, you're very pretty. Your mother's very proud of you. We all love you a great deal, but we have to acknowledge that there is a cost to these things. It's not just, wow, the Ravens got one over on everybody again. They did well, given the circumstances, but they don't have a second wide receiver. And their number one wide receiver, we all believe, is capable of being it, but we have no proof of that. That's a huge cost. Massive, monstrous cost of making a move like this that you can't define when you try to say, look how well they did. And when you talk about this, you have to reference that. It's not irrelevant. You don't, as I keep saying, you don't determine who wins a Super Bowl by who recouped the best trade value for a player. They don't have a second receiver. That matters. Talk about it more with Chris Sims next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The great Ron Simmons.
Damn.
Keith Lee.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le champion!
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people. People like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, diving into where his passion for baseball and for catching comes from and how he uses that passion to elevate those around him in the Orioles organization. Also inside, Bo Smolka takes a look at how the Ravens' 2021 draft picks can make progress in year two, and Glenn Clark offers a very unique tribute to former rival Mike Krzyzewski that all Maryland fans can appreciate. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Stay tuned. Your chance to win $1 million is coming up. Probably not from us. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, back in here on GCR. Don't forget, coming up this morning at 11:40, Simply the Bets, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. We will dive further into the playoff action and thinking about some big fights this month. All that coming up this morning, 11:40 a.m. on Simply the Bets. Right now, we continue to discuss the weekend for the Baltimore Ravens and what it means moving forward as they sort of try to push towards being, or at least breaking through in a loaded AFC. Joining us now, a man who I know is very high on what it is the Ravens accomplished during the course of this draft. He is former NFL QB, and of course a man you see on NBC, PFT Live, and all sorts of places. He's our buddy Chris Sims. He's back with us on GCR. Chris, it's Glenn and Paul. Good to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
No problem, guys. What's up? How's everything going?
Everything is going well, and it's nice. I always talk about how everybody likes to feel pretty, and every Ravens fan feels very pretty because everybody on the planet seems to agree that the Ravens were big winners during the course of the weekend.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's really hard to argue that. They definitely one of the 3-4 teams that I would look at to go, they won the draft, definitely. I mean, of course, the safety, we know, Special and Hamilton, very, very popular type of player, a needed type of player for this day and age in the NFL. Offenses are multiple. You could be 2 tight end sets, one play, they go no huddle. Both tight ends can split out a receiver, are awesome receivers, and you need guys that have versatility like Hamilton. Traditional safety, can play in the box almost as a sub-linebacker, can play nickelback. He's awesome. I mean, Linderbaum, the center from Iowa, I mean, come on, definitely one of the best O-linemen in the draft. Very important, underlooked position at times. But, to me, one of the safest bets there are. You got your starting center for however long you guys want him in there in Baltimore. And then you get a little like David Ojabo, nice little, you guys aren't desperate for an edge guy, but I think the value was too good to pass up at pick 45 in the second round. And then I love Travis Jones, big guy D tackle. The big tackle from Minnesota's got potential. Jalen Armour-Davis, the corner from Alabama, was one of my 5 best corners in the draft. He has a few little injury history, but damn, he's 6'2". He ran 4.3, and no one ever gets open against him. I couldn't believe he was on the board there. And then I also like the 2 tight ends. So I know I just said a lot.
No.
But obviously, yeah, I'm one of those guys that drooled over the draft a little bit.
This is so, Chris. We are in agreement about almost everything you said, right? I don't know that they're all going to pan out, but I think there's every reason to believe that the Ravens got quality football players, particularly at those first 3-round picks, which we all know is sort of what breaks a draft, right? Everything after that is a little bit more of a crapshoot, but those first 3-round picks, they seem to have done as well as you could possibly do. I think it comes back to and I've been asking this question since then. For as good as I feel about what the Ravens did in the draft, the secondary question is, do I feel like they got closer to breaking through in what is now one of, if not the most difficult division in the NFL, and obviously an insanely loaded AFC? And that's the conversation that I'm struggling with. Not to say that there was a guaranteed way they could do that this weekend, but I think it goes back into when we credit them for being true to the board, taking best player available, are there times where maybe a team would be well suited to say, the hell with that, we need to come up with an edge rusher right now if we're going to have a chance to go out and beat the Joe Burrows, Josh Allens, and Patrick Mahomes of the world?
Well, yeah, I hear you there. It's a tough balance. It's hard to have it all. I understand that. There's also other ways to create pressure as far as the defense is concerned. And I know we don't want to blitz against great quarterbacks and do that, but I think you're going to still, even without Wink Martindale, Mike McDonald's still going to have things that he can creatively bring to the table. Adafio Way, to me, is a big-time edge pass rusher, and it's not like Jalen Ferguson and Tyus Bowser are bad. They're not great pass rushers. Bowser a little better than Ferguson, but good edge football players. But again, you can't have it all there. So I don't know. As far as addressing the edge, I think they took a guy that they felt like, okay, is extremely talented. They know him, of course, with Mike McDonald being up in Michigan, and they're willing to wait for the reward and maybe not have a guy that's 100% until late in the football season. But I think when you just talk about team building, where the team is at altogether, you still got a lot of great pieces on the team. Now you've added a young nucleus to go with what you got. Yeah, the AFC's brutal, but damn, I have a hard time thinking, if Lamar Jackson stays healthy down the stretch last year, you guys get in the playoffs. Damn, if the team in general wasn't so beat up with some of the star big-time players, you get in the playoffs. So I still look at the Ravens and go, it's one of the better teams in the AFC, and especially with that coaching staff and the physical style play, and I always say the pillaging of the baddest mofos on the planet every year. I think they're sitting in a pretty good spot. I understand your concern maybe with another edge guy. I understand that.
And the other thing, too, Chris Sims is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. And the other thing, too, of course, being Chris, they ended up losing Hollywood Brown. And given the circumstances, we all think they did pretty well to make the trade that they made if they felt like they had to trade Hollywood Brown. But the problem is you still have to look at this wide receiver core, and it's the old thing that we've been talking about in Baltimore essentially forever, and say, is this group good enough? And I love Rashad Bateman, man. Like, I think Rashad Bateman, talent-wise, could be the best receiver the Baltimore Ravens have had since Anquan Bolden. But that being said, it's that's what they've got. They don't have another proven wide receiver on the roster. And as much as we say, hey, they want to run the ball, that's what they're going to do, at some point, and we also say that Mark Andrews is kind of a glorified wide receiver at tight end, but they don't look around in this conference and see what other teams are lining up. What the Ravens are stacking up at wide receiver does not nearly match up. That has to be a concern for me.
Well, yeah, to a degree, sure. I mean, yes. But again, the team's never going to be perfect, and this is one area that it's not going to be.
Right.
It's not. Receivers are not going to be knocking on the door to go, oh, let me come there and play and watch Lamar Jackson run around. Yes, awesome. No, they're going to probably be a team that's going to have to take a different approach if they're going to continue to play this style of football. I'm not saying you're wrong with anything there. I get it. Devin Duvernay, I mean, he's a talent, a weapon, but there's not a lot of proven commodities on the roster at the receiver position. It makes me wonder to a degree, and I think you guys, Florio and I have talked about this a lot on PFT, I think you guys are always going to be in the market for the Sammy Watkins of the year to get on your team every year.
It didn't help.
So, yeah, I know it didn't help. So whoever that's going to be this year, Julio Jones come in, late June or something like that. I could certainly see that be a possibility for Baltimore. But here's the other thing I'll throw out, maybe just a different angle, and I'm interested to see maybe if this is their approach. Maybe they realize there's an issue with the receiver thing to the examples you have pointed out. The offense, Lamar Jackson, receivers not wanting to go there. Maybe that's why they drafted two unbelievable pass-catching tight ends later in the round, later in the draft. Maybe that's the route they're going to go. Maybe they're going to go, screw you, here's Mark Andrews, like I talked about when I broke down Kyle Hamilton. Screw you, here's Mark Andrews, here's Charlie Kohler, here's Isaiah Likely. We got three tight ends on the field. Ooh, we can run the ball and overpower you and give you issues with three tight ends and Lamar and, Dobbins at running back and Bateman as the one receiver. And then you have to worry about, let's get big linebackers in there and stop the run. But then like I said, the next play, it's the same personnel. And you said it, Mark Andrews, glorified wide receiver. So with these other tight ends, they really are. They're pass-catching tight ends. Maybe that's the style of play they're going to go to this year. I have thought about that. George Godsey, the new tight end coach from New England, was in Miami. He understands how to use tight ends. It's crossed my mind. I'm interested. I don't know that, but maybe that's a route where they get a little more offense on that side of the ball instead of the receivers like you're pointing out.
And, Chris, to be fair, we know when they had three tight ends on the field in 2019, they were, my God, they were unbeatable in moments. But can you win a Super Bowl doing that, I guess, is what the question keeps coming back to, right?
Well, it's going to be all that. You guys are the ultimate can you win the Super Bowl. Can you win? I heard like Lamar made a little bit of a comment during the year, like, or on the LeBron James thing, right, where he followed up and said, yeah, there is a stigma, I'm paraphrasing, I might be wrong, on the black quarterback. And, I didn't think that was necessarily true. I love Lamar Jackson. You guys know that. But I wanted to be no. There's no stigma. Nobody's questioning Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson or any of those guys. What is questioned is the style of play that Lamar Jackson plays. It has nothing to do with the color of his skin. Now, most running quarterbacks are black. So that's just the fact of the matter anyways. But it's not about the black quarterback. It's about what you're talking about, the style of play. You guys are the first team in the history of the NFL to go this route and go, you know what? We're going to play defense and be really creative running the ball and have a quarterback that's electric running the football. And then we're just going to kind of try to keep you honest with the pass game to a degree. And that is new for the NFL. Again, we get to the Final Four, the Super Bowl every year. It's guys that can make throws in the pocket as a quarterback. Burrow, Stafford, Brady, Mahomes. You just keep going down the list. It doesn't matter. That's the style of play that's proven to get you to win a Super Bowl, because the defenses, of course, are so great as you get later on in the playoffs that the running quarterback has a hard time running and winning the game that way. So you guys are the ultimate experiment as far as some of this stuff we're talking about here.
Chris Sims with us on GCR. I'm a little uncomfortable saying there's no stigma at all to the black quarterback, Chris, because
I hear you. I understand. I get that. I don't mean it that way. I understand. Yes. What I'm saying is I don't think it's necessarily skin color. I think it's necessarily more the play style that's really the part that is questioned in the NFL circles, right? Nobody's looking at it and going, oh, the black quarterback. No, that's not fair to say. Everybody thinks you can win a Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson. Everybody thinks you can win it, like I said, with Mahomes or Russell Wilson or other guys too. But yes, there's the stigma of the running quarterback, and mostly the running quarterbacks are predominantly black. I'm just trying to paraphrase a conversation. I'm certainly not trying to judge too much.
I understand that. Chris, so you mentioned the idea that it could be Julio. And this is a thin group that we're talking about that's out there. There's Julio Jones. There's Jarvis Landry, who I'm still confused as to why he's still available because he's the one guy that you look at and say, yeah, I think I'd take that guy. There's Fuller. There's Hilton. It gets really thin really quickly.
Yes, it does.
Is there something there that you would try to do if you were the Ravens, or is it time to sort of say, to your point, you got your tight ends, you got the young receivers, they're going to have to sink or swim. This is the group that you got. It ain't really worth doing the Sammy Watkins or the TJ Hushmanzada or the insert name here experiment again of just grabbing a guy for the sake of grabbing a guy.
Well, again, the Sammy Watkins thing didn't work out quite the way you want. But, I don't think that's wrong to go along those lines of thinking of, hey, veteran, coming to the end of his career, journeyman. Yeah, can this guy help us, as far as the things we've talked about, be the proven commodity? Hey, it's a 3rd and 4. I want a guy that I can trust that's going to read the defense and know exactly how to run this little intricate route here for us to get the first down. Like, that's where I think the veteran presence, Julio Jones type of guy can come into handy. But it's risky. And you certainly, you're not looking for a long-term future here. Jarvis Landry would be amazing for the Baltimore Ravens. I think Jarvis Landry, the issue is he's overpriced himself on the market right now. So no one wants to pay that. He's not a big-time separation receiver, but he's physical. He'll help you in the run game. And to me, he's the guy that you got to help get open a little bit, but you guys have that offense. Oh, hey, fake Dobbins this way. Here goes Jarvis Landry out the back door behind the line of scrimmage. Oh, Lamar throws them a little, bootleg pass in the flat, and now he makes people miss with the ball in his hands. I think that does have some logic to me. The price has to be right. But I think, we're on the right track here. I think we're seeing that this is kind of going to be the formula of the team. And I think they're going to try to, go this route is what you discussed and what I've discussed.
So how do they, Chris, how do they break through? What does this come down to? If the Ravens are going to try to break through, and what we're talking about, this is murderer's row they're dealing with now in the AFC, right?
Right.
How do they break through this group knowing that there's, it's not going to get easier, I don't think, in the coming years. These are not aged quarterbacks. They're going to be on their way out. Those are the guys in the NFC. How do they break through this group and finally find their way back to a Super Bowl at this point?
Well, they're close. You had a heartbreaking loss in the divisional round, 2 years ago to the Titans when you're the number 1 seed, or that was 3 years ago now. It's a team that I don't look at as far off. I don't know if I got the magic answer for you. I think they're in the process of, you've made your team and your defense a little faster and explosive. They're going to be a little more talented on that side of the ball. So that's a good thing. Offensively, I think, again, it's just, can we stay healthy? Can Ronnie Stanley be healthy? Can we continue to stay creative in the running game, which I don't really doubt at all. I mean, that's where, the Ravens and the offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, are very good in that department. And then I don't think it takes, we don't need Lamar to be Josh Allen as far as, picking people apart or Aaron Rodgers, but it's just got to continue to grow and be a little bit better and more consistent. Again, even last year, Lamar's better, certainly, but we had some games where you just go, damn, Pittsburgh on the road, there's too many throws and plays that's not good enough. The Miami game on the road on the Thursday night, those are the games you look at and go, that's just inconsistent. And that's where we need a little bit better quarterback play and reading the coverages and making the appropriate throw. So I think it's a little bit of everything, along with the continued development of Lamar Jackson.
He is Chris Sims. Chris, what can we plug for you, man? Where are people seeing you? Where are they hearing you? I know you're a very busy man.
Well, I'm all NBC Sports. We are on Peacock every morning, 7 to 9, Pro Football Talk. I do my Chris Sims Unbuttoned podcast twice a week if you want to get in the weeds. And, it's just football. It ain't there for entertainment. We're breaking down players and teams and all that. I do that twice a week anywhere you get your podcast. So those are the main things. And, I do Sunday Night Football and all that in the season. But, the Peacock is where you'll find me now. No more channels, it's the app age. I'm on the Peacock app, dudes.
Hey, man, that's I know that world, my friend. That's as a longtime radio guy, I've had to make an adjustment. At CSimsQB is how you follow him on Twitter. Chris, appreciate you taking the time for us this morning, man. Thanks for doing this. Let's talk again soon, all right?
All right, guys. Be good. Have a good one.
Appreciate you. Chris Sims checking in with us here on GCR. Today's show also brought to you by the Baltimore Police, who are still looking for some folks. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org. Yeah, I just generically I have to push back on what he said about, the stigma is not about black quarterback. There is a black quarterback stigma. Now, if what you're saying is that there's also a more specific stigma related to playing style, yeah, I don't think that every personnel person throughout the course of the NFL looks at every black quarterback the exact same way. Although, who was it a few years ago? I actually think it was Stephen A. Smith, which is ironic, that sort of labeled Dwayne Haskins as a running the late Dwayne Haskins as a running quarterback, which we all knew wasn't the case. I get what he's trying to say. I just don't think that was worded in an entirely appropriate way, because I don't think you can utterly dismiss the idea that there's a stigma there. It is Tuesday. Every Tuesday we talk college sports with our next guest, of course, at Discourse, D1S Course on Twitter, USA Lacrosse Magazine, The Washington Post. He's our buddy Patrick Stevens, and he's back with us now here on GCR. What's going on, sir? How are you?
I'm well, Glenn. How are you doing?
Everything's all right.
Will I be seeing you this afternoon at Loyola?
You will indeed. Getting ready for a Patriot League quarterfinal coming up at 3 o'clock today at Ridley Athletic Complex as Loyola takes on Bucknell. I'll look forward to seeing you. Maybe we can, you know what? I'll talk to you about that off the air, all right? We'll talk about maybe there's a way we can hang out afterwards. Let me start with basketball this week, and let me begin with Jahmir Young. And it's a unique situation, right, with Maryland and landing a recruit or a transfer anyway, because there is still this possibility that he ends up turning pro. But if Jahmir Young does indeed end up at Maryland, what are they getting from him next fall?
Well, it's funny. We were talking, a week or two ago about Sam Sessoms at Coppin State, the guy that took a lot of shots and what have you. Like, Jahmir Young has been a guy that has been the centerpiece of Charlotte's offense for the last 2 years, averaging 18 and 19.6 points a game, averaging 13.2 and 14.5 shots per game, a 35% three-point shooter on a team that's losing Eric Ayala and Fats Russell. He's obviously going to play a lot, and he'll probably be one of their more valuable players. Now, how well does he make the jump from Conference USA to the Big Ten? That's a fair question. Although I will point out that if you're sizing up, well, what did he do against maybe more brand name competition last year? So he had 10 points in 38 minutes on 3 of 11 shooting against Davidson. He had 10 points on 4 of 14 shooting in 36 minutes against Arkansas. And he had 27 points on 12 of 21 shooting in 39 minutes against Wake Forest. So, there's a mixed bag there. I'm sure that with some better players around him, that will help. But at the same time, I don't think you're going to be guaranteed that you're getting a guy that's going to average close to 20 points a game. He's clearly going to be, if he does ultimately end up in College Park, one of their more useful players next season.
I think that would be obviously very important for this team because they still need a lot. You mentioned
they still need a lot, and there's a lot still floating around out there.
Yeah,
and I think what we've said and what I think I've said in the past, and I still believe this, is we get to the middle of this month, maybe toward the end of this month, and we'll just have a better idea at that point. My own opinion about this coming season isn't that much different than the one that just concluded. I think anything you get out of this year is gravy. It's sort of a year zero situation, and you're basically trying to put yourself in a spot where you don't want to be sub 500 again. But if you're being realistic, it's probably more likely that you're going to be an NIT team or worse than an NCAA tournament team. That said, if I turn out to be wrong, hey, you know what? That's good for them.
No question.
And it's the old line: better to be pleasantly surprised than bitterly disappointed. And I think for Maryland at this point, given what it has and given what it doesn't have, that you're probably not looking at having a team that's a serious conference contender until 23-24. But like I said to start all this off, there's still a bunch of dudes floating around out there. Yep. So who knows who they ultimately end up landing here over the next month or so.
I know you mentioned his name, but there was a couple of people, including I don't like to give more attention to John Rothstein, but like he thought that he needed to tweet out that Eric. Was there any thought at all that Eric Ayala wasn't going to be moving on? Was there ever a thought that he could use that extra year and come back to Maryland?
Well, remember, not only did he have 4 years in college, but he also had the post-grad year that he played. And so you're talking about a guy who's 22, 23 years old. And, I think we've talked about this before. Like, at some point, what are you really going to get out of that extra year of college?
Right.
I mean, I think I've always enjoyed watching Eric Ayala play. I think that he's the sort of guy that maybe he doesn't necessarily jump out at you all the time, but he has a game that I think is going to be able to, he's going to age into his game is going to age fairly well. I think he's a guy that can go play professionally for a while. And so, I think there's nothing wrong with somebody in that spot saying, you know what, I'm 23 or so. It's time to go make some money doing this. So, best wishes to him for sure. And, like I said, I don't think there was ever really a thought he was going to stay in college for it.
Yeah, that's the sense that I had. Patrick Stevens with us here on GCR. All right, sir, so this is the final week, and we are loading up for Selection Sunday in college lacrosse. As you referenced, there's a Patriot League tournament gets underway today, both Loyola and Navy in action. I guess let's just sort of broadly, what is at stake still this week? What are the realities for the various local teams? And then what are the big storylines otherwise going into the selection special?
Well, let's roll through the locals first. You mentioned Navy and Loyola. They both have to win 3 games in a span of a week to be able to make the NCAA tournament. The Patriot League is going to be a one-bid league. Loyola starts at home as the 3 seed against Bucknell. Navy goes to Lehigh. The tournament is up in Boston Friday and Sunday. If Loyola wins, it will definitely play Army on Friday. So if you're Loyola, you're looking at probably having to beat 2 teams that you lost to during the regular season, Army and Boston University. Although it's possible BU gets picked off by a Lehigh or a Navy. And so Navy, I think, it's funny. We talked last week about, Navy making its season by beating Army. And I didn't even mention that they've won at Homewood for the first time since 1969. So they're 9-5. I think that they get to 10 wins tonight against Lehigh, a definite possibility. Lehigh with just an absolute meltdown in the last minute against Loyola on Friday. So I'll be curious to see how Lehigh responds to that. But bottom line for Loyola and Navy, both have to win 3 games in 3 days. UMBC has a tough task. It goes up to Vermont. All these years, they've never actually had the conference lacrosse tournament up in Burlington. They got to make the trek up there. Vermont has played really well against America East competition. UMBC gets a Binghamton team that's been struggling a bit of late. So that's the semifinal. That's a one-bid league no matter what. And chances are UMBC is going to have to beat Vermont on its own field on Saturday if it's going to get in. Towson, they're playing UMass up in Philadelphia at Drexel in a CAA tournament that could go to any of those 4 teams, and I don't think anybody would bat an eye at it. Delaware and Drexel in the other semifinal. Other league where you're going to need to win 2 games in 3 days to make the tournament. And then, Hopkins and Maryland playing in the Big Ten semifinal Thursday night in College Park, 5:30 start. BTN with in the NCAA tournament, Johns Hopkins needs to win 2 more games to be able to extend its season beyond this weekend. I will say, having watched Hopkins on Saturday against Penn State, and Penn State isn't very good. I don't want to overemphasize this, but Hopkins played really well, and Hopkins really dominated the course of play. They outshot Penn State 31-9 in the first half. I mean, they just had control of the game from start to finish, and it was a good response from the worst loss in program history. So now they get another shot at Maryland, and I would expect. I don't think Hopkins is 15 goals worse than Maryland. I don't know if they're much more than within 8 goals of Maryland, because I'm not sure there's many teams that are at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I expect this to be a better game on Thursday as Hopkins gives it a go against the Terps for the second time in less than 2 weeks.
And then what about the rest of the country as far as, are there is there a bubble going into this week?
There's not much of one, and part of it is because the Ivy League has been so good that those teams are all kind of locked in for the most part at this point. I mean, I feel like I could give you a list right now of 13 teams. And I think those 13 teams will account for the 8 at-large spots and could also account for up to 3 automatic berths. So when we're looking at teams that are maybe closer to the edge of the field, and I would actually, somewhat reluctantly, in case there is some chaos, include Virginia in that. But Virginia, Duke, Notre Dame, Harvard, Ohio State, 2 of those teams aren't going to make the tournament. And the question is it going to be more than 2? My guess is that Harvard probably is not going to be in the field, probably not quite enough going for it, and they missed the Ivy League tournament, so not enough opportunities to improve their lot in life. But there's not going to be that many potential bid thieves out there. Hopkins is one of them, and if they go out, then the Big Ten is going to have 3 teams that if they were to win the league would have been in the field anyway. Even if they'd lost a conference title game. I think if Ohio State beats Rutgers, it's going to be hard to leave the Buckeyes out. The other league that has the potential for a little chaos is the Big East, and that's if Georgetown wins, it's a 1-bid league, and if somebody else wins that league, it's a 2-bid league. So I think if you're a Notre Dame or a Duke or an Ohio State, you're probably watching those results coming in from D.C., Denver or Villanova probably against Georgetown on Saturday afternoon. That, I think, is the game that has the potential to squeeze somebody out. I think all 4 teams in the Ivy tournament are going to make it, and I think pretty much everybody else is 1-bid territory.
All right, it's Patrick Stevens. We'll be watching it unfold over the next few days, and then we'll be talking about the end. And it, again, appears as though the most likely scenario is that Maryland will be the only local team that's involved. But, as you said, Towson can go on the road and do something, and we'll see how the Patriot League tournament plays out. It feels like about a year ago at this time we didn't think Loyola was going to be in the NCAA tournament either. They just didn't have to deal with there being so many Ivy League teams standing in their way. All right, let's play our game. Can Patrick Stevens name the MLB teams that this particular player has played for? I acknowledge this first one tricky. 4-time All-Star, but we remember one really well and the others not quite so well. 4 teams for one of the better closers of his generation. Troy Percival is the first name.
Well, we certainly remember Troy Percival with the California Anaheim LA Angels.
And that's where, yes, of course, and that's where things get tricky because you remember a lot of that and don't really, I got to be honest with you, I didn't remember any of the other ones, Patrick.
All right. Well, he was in Detroit, right?
That's where he went after. I don't know how you remember that. Yes, he went to Detroit in 2005.
And am I remembering him with a cameo in Tampa?
You are remembering him with a cameo in Tampa in 2008 and 2009.
So I'm missing the 2007 season,
and I'm acknowledging the 2007 season was a bit injury-plagued. He did appear in 34 games during the course of that season.
34 games for Troy Percival in 2007. It does get a little hard here, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the fact that you've done this far, I mean, stop. This is a win no matter what. You remember Troy Percival as a Tiger and a Ray.
Was he in Arizona?
No, it wasn't Arizona. It's actually a pretty common one. Like, It's St. Louis is the answer.
St. Louis,
St.
okay.
Louis is where he ended up.
I do not remember him in St. Louis at all. So.
I admit I did not remember one of these, but 4 teams, and somehow the man was only an All-Star once, despite the fact that he finished in the top 20 of MVP voting 4 times. 4 teams for Jason Worth.
Jason Worth was in. Well, certainly we can go backwards here. He was in Washington.
Yep.
He was in Philly.
Yep.
Now, the tricky thing with Jason Worth is I think he was drafted by the Orioles, right? But he never actually played.
That's correct.
So he was in Toronto, right?
That is where his career began, and I remember those 3. Paul knows
was he
it.
a Dodger?
That's the other one, 4 for 4. I don't remember him as a Dodger at all. I don't remember that one bit. But well done, sir. All right, I'm imagining College Park, D.C., and Loyola today all on the schedule for this weekend?
Yes, Loyola today for Loyola Bucknell. Big Ten semifinals on Thursday, and then the Big East final, which I think is probably the most interesting game of the day, on Saturday, Georgetown against, in all likelihood, Georgetown against either Denver or Villanova, although Georgetown does have to get past Marquette first. In Thursday semifinals.
At Discourse, D1S Course on Twitter is how you follow him. Patrick Stevens, appreciate you, my friend. We'll see you this afternoon. We'll talk to you next Tuesday, all right?
Awesome. Take care.
It's Patrick Stevens joining us as he does every Tuesday to go through the world of college sports. All right, it is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Josh Charles is going to join us here in just 1 second as we'll continue to push this break. It's okay. I can make it work. I'm a professional. What I'll do is I'll tell you about Glory Days Grill. I'll tell you about the spring seasonal menu. I'll tell you about the opener, the flash fried pork belly with the Korean No. 2 sauce. I'll tell you about the Cracker Jack sundae with the waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jacks. The Crunch Burger with the chips on top. It's all available for you right now at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to get your order in. This man was out in Vegas announcing the Ravens' 3rd-round pick on Friday night. I didn't know if he was going to maybe try to ham it up, do any shtick. I think he did the right thing, playing it cool. He's on a show perhaps you've heard of. It's on HBO. It's called We Own This City. He is our buddy, Mr. Josh Charles, and he's back with us now here on GCR. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Glenn, how are you, my man? You good?
Everything's good, man. What about you? What's going on in your world?
It's good, man. I'm glad you said that because I did a little Q&A on the plane, just bored, killing time on the plane while the guy coughed next to me. The entire flight. And I said, what do you think? What do you guys think I should do when I get up there? And a lot of people are like, do a Baltimore accent, do this, do that. And I thought about it, and I ran it by some people, but I thought, you know what? Even though at that point in the 3rd round, the players aren't there, it's still somebody's moment.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
I didn't want to make it like a big joke or anything like that. I didn't want to go. So I just, I don't know, try to do it straightforward and have some fun. It was cool. I mean, to be frank, as a fan, I think the drafts can be kind of, other than the 4th round, they can be kind of boring. You're there for a while and it's going, but the 4th round was super exciting just to have that many picks. And Vegas,
Yeah.
the NFL and Vegas are made for each other.
Right.
The Super Bowl there in 2 years will be perfect. It's a perfect mix of everything, And for me, 2 days and I'm ready to get out of that town.
Well, okay, we agree on that, and it's going to be a nightmare for me if I don't get out of that town within 2 days. When I lived out in Arizona, it was a real problem because it was a nice weekend trip. Okay, 2 questions I have. Did you get to keep the card?
I kept the card, and I immediately emailed the Ravens, said that I want to give this to
Travis.
Yeah, to Travis Jones, and I said just if you want to give me his address or whatever, I want him. He may want it as a souvenir.
That's cool.
It. And they said, best way to do it is next time you're in Baltimore when they're here practicing, just come down and give it to them yourself.
Oh, that's
said,
cool.
Okay,
That'll
cool.
be neat. That'll be really neat. That's a very cool thing. And then how nervous were you about the pronunciation of whatever name you were going to get? Like, were you happy that you didn't get a Jabo the way that Matt Stover did? Was that something that you were thinking about at all in the leading up to this?
Well, the Jabo would have been easy. I was more worried about the really long one.
Oh, like Fa'alele, right.
Yeah, or something really like, So, I was nervous about that. In fact, they pulled a practical joke on me backstage. and handed me a card with one of those names on it and said, and said, here you go. This is your, because I said I was nervous about that. And they go, oh, okay, wait, have you seen your pick yet? Because I think I have it. And I was like, oh, okay. And they handed it to me. And sure enough, it was, I go, are you kidding? Is this a bit? And they're like, no, I just haven't put the Ravens on it yet. And I was like, oh, I started getting into a deep sweat. And then they just all bust out laughing, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one they got that day with it. But it was pretty good.
That's
and
awesome.
I was like, yeah, Travis Jones I can handle.
Yeah, that's not too difficult. That's not too difficult. Well, it's a cool experience. I get that it's not, you didn't win the Super Bowl or anything like that, but it's a cool experience. Not everybody's going to get the opportunity to win.
It was a very cool experience. I mean, I felt really honored they asked me to do it. And, I'm a live and breathe Ravens and Orioles. And so just like you, and I kind of was – I was touched by it. I was like, how could I pass this up? Wife and I used it as a chance to go and just have a couple days together. And the weather was beautiful. We saw some friends. And it was great.
It's awesome.
Really
man.
great.
That's awesome. I was really happy for you when I found that out. I was like, that's a really cool thing. That's a really cool thing to get to do.
It was cool. And a great draft, by the way. I mean, I really feel very happy about the draft and the picks we made. And, it'll be interesting to see how all those fourth rounders pan out. Reading all the stuff I've been reading about it, the Peter King behind the scenes stuff was very interesting. But I just think the Ravens are damn good at what they do. They make some good picks, and things seem to fall to them, and they don't panic. And I had a tremendous sense of pride as a fan, because everybody there was like, oh my God, dude, the Ravens. God, other teams are so pissed.
That's
cool.
So pissed. That's cool.
Your owner, your GM, makes such great picks. And I know it takes a little while to tell, but I think the Hamilton and Linderbaum was an incredible start to the draft, and pretty well.
Josh Charles is with us. By the way, sometimes when those people bring that up, you have to remind, hey, I'm an Orioles fan too. It's not like I do have some suffering in my life. I have some of that.
I know, man. I've got suffering in my life, and and I thought, here's the other thing. I thought the Ajabo pick was.
Oh, I agree.
I actually called that before. I thought that was really cool because I know he's coming off the Achilles, but I think it's really great value there. And I just had that feeling with McDonald. I was like, I said backstage, I was like, I bet you they're going to take Ajabo. And they did. I was excited.
So let's talk about what they did, because you and I talked briefly on Twitter. I agree. I think they made great picks. I really like the picks. But Josh, what I struggle with is there ever a time?
Rusher.
Right. Is there ever a time to think about, hey, as much as this theory has worked and has kept the Ravens relevant for decades, is there ever a time to start thinking about need? Is there ever a time to start saying, hey, we need to zero in on what's best for winning a Super Bowl this year? And, I like Ajabo a lot, but I don't think he's going to be a factor this year. And they've got one qualified NFL receiver on the roster at the moment, and even that's a guy that, as much as we all love, and I'm over the moon about Rashad Bateman's talent, we do have to acknowledge, he hasn't done it yet in the NFL. So it's just a difficult juxtaposition for me of thinking they did a great job in the draft, but knowing you don't get to throw parades for drafting really well.
I agree. I agree that I've heard that. You're not the only person saying that. I definitely feel like that was a consensus I've been reading, and I was immediately checking back in to see what the vibe was from fans in Baltimore, and I heard a lot of frustration about that. But I also think we don't play next week. We've got some time, and I think this team has shown historically they're willing to make moves, and I think we improved our offensive line tremendously between the Moses signing and Linderbaum, right? I think, the plan is for guys to get healthy. I think, they're seeing Bateman closer up than we are, and we feel good about him that he can make that turn. Yes, he hasn't done it, but I think they have a lot of confidence in that. And I think with all the tight ends, it's going to be interesting to see which way the offense goes this year. We need an extra pass rusher. We need, another receiver.
Yep.
I think when you read that King thing, you saw they were going to take that kid in the fourth round, and the Steelers,
Yeah, it's Calvin Austin, right?
Grabbed him one pick before. So I think like Eric said, I don't think it was like lack of, trying. It was just like, I don't know. I think the board fell to them in a way. Like they were giddy with getting Hamilton. and the trade. I mean, we haven't even talked about the Hollywood thing. I mean, what's the vibe there in Baltimore? How are people feeling about the Hollywood
It's so
trade?
weird, Josh, because the same people that were absurdly critical of Hollywood Brown, and they were insanely critical of Hollywood Brown. We had Torrey on last week, and Torrey was kind of going in on Ravens fans. And I know some of that's personal for him because he felt some of it when he was here, where he was very productive, and yet people wanted to run him out of town after the New England game because he didn't break up the interception, and all he ever does is get pass interference yards. So he's going in on Ravens. So those same fans that have been critical of Hollywood Brown were kind of losing their minds as this trade unfolded. And I sense that it's less about Hollywood Brown and more about the fact that, hey, this was the first time maybe in the history of the franchise that we really felt good about the wide receiver position. And now here we are a couple days later, and we're nervous about it again after we had felt so good about it. So I don't know how much of it was about Hollywood uniquely as much as it was about just the position as a whole.
I think that's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't agree that it's the first time we've ever felt good about wide receivers. I mean, I think we've definitely had some periods where we had some solid wide receivers.
I think what it was draft and develop guys, I guess specifically is.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
No, totally. I mean, I think we saw him make those strides this year, and then it was kind of, to me, I saw it as like, a couple steps up, step back, couple steps up. It was. You kind of kept wondering, okay, is next year going to be the year that he turns it around, and really kind of goes to the next level? But when you talk to other people, it's like, you hear Steve Smith talking about it. He's showed flashes of brilliance, but he's a go route receiver. He's not going to step up, man to man and just sort of wear somebody the corner down. And so I think Bateman can be that guy. Bateman's got that right body size, right? I mean, that, to me, I feel like he could fall into that. But
Dude.
It's weird. I thought I would feel worse about it because I seem to like Hollywood. He seems like a really sweet guy. But I actually think it was a great move. I don't think the money that they're going to have to pay, at some point, whatever that is, Lamar, I think this was knowing that Hollywood wanted to be traded. I mean, they kept that under the wraps. I didn't know that. That was amazing to me, and he gets to play with his boy from college, right? And who I think is licking his wounds after the ending of his season and wants some sort of comfort there with somebody that he feels familiar with. And I think it's good for both parties, honestly. I think we handled it really well. I'm happy with it.
I tend to agree with you. I think they did well in the trade. I think that there's a lot. I get nervous about the idea of who your second wide receiver is. That's it. You're right. There's time. I love the idea of trying to add in Jarvis Landry. He's not replacing Hollywood Brown, but I think he's still a very productive player that can help you at this point. I don't really.
Is that what people are talking about now, Glenn?
He's the best of what's there, Josh. Right. Otherwise, it's Julio Jones, and a year ago I was enamored with Julio Jones, and now I'm like, nope, I was wrong. I was so wrong about that.
I think it's. Look, I mean, I watched the press conference with Eric and Coach, and just saying that they feel really good about the guys they have, and. I know that's something they say,
Right.
You watch that, and I get it, but at the same time, it's like I do. I think Duvernay has potential. Prochet had some flashes last year. I think I don't know how Wallace kid. I don't know how
Talon Wallace.
Out,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was sort of more special teams, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't he doing more?
He was barely even active.
Barely active. So I think I don't know. Let's see. If Rashad really, with that full season under his belt, playing catch with Lamar in the offseason, if he really makes that leap, can two of those other guys fill those other positions and step up there with Mark Andrews, these two young tight ends we just drafted? I don't know. I'm not as freaked out about it. I'm more concerned about the pass rush, to be honest.
I get it, and look, it's also a concern for me. It is. It's a concern for me, and that's I like Tyus Bowser and his role if he's healthy. I think we saw a lot to like about Odafe Oweh, but there's just a lot of hope that's involved with this conversation. There's a lot of.
I'm with you. You kind of look at it and you're not sure. It's like, is it going to pop this year, or is it like another year? You're going to get really excited about it. But I have confidence that these guys will fill in the pieces. Like we said, we're not playing next week, 2 weeks. We got time. And I think that was something Ozzy always did so brilliantly, and I think Eric does it as well. It's just not afraid to make a move when they need to and put in the right pieces. So I'm willing to give them a little moment to see, where this heads in terms of the pass rush and the wide receiver of it all, and give them the benefit of the doubt.
He is Josh Charles. You have you've been watching him these last couple of Mondays on We Own This City on HBO. So you and I have talked about this. You getting to pull out the accent and play such an unrepentant asshole. I mean, just one of the great assholes in the history of television.
He's a Highlandtown asshole. It's
a very unique asshole, isn't it? Like, I am convinced, and I told you this when I first watched, that this had to be an utter joy for you in your career. And if you tell me I'm wrong, I appreciate the truth, but like
No. It was a joy. I wouldn't say it was a joy because of what an asshole the character was. I think in an odd way in doing the research, there are times for me as an actor, whenever you play a character, and especially if you play characters that from the outside people would perceive as an asshole or, bad characters, villain characters, you're always trying to find, when you're playing them and getting into their shoes, they don't view themselves that way, so you have to you're looking for every little lock, every little key that can open up some of the humanity that you can find. And here, because he's a character you hear so much about, for a while, and then you sort of see him in sort of pieces here and there. A lot of the exposition was sort of done for the character and the backstory. And in the research I did, a lot of people that work with him, as brutal as he was, as many complaints as he had against him, historic complaints, and just trouncing on people's civil liberties. When you talk to people that work with him, there was a lot of interesting things that people would say that didn't really jive with the perception that he was just a straight asshole, and some of it was that he had a kind of, people said he definitely had that edge to him, but that he also had a kind of odd charm. Like, if he was on your team and you liked him, he worked hard, and he could be very sarcastic and kind of have that sense of humor, but there was a sort of an odd charm to him. And when you watch a lot of the body cam footage, because he grew up in the neighborhood, he just, the way he interacts with certain people on the street, sometimes, you could feel a level of aggression underneath of it, sort of couched in this sort of faux kind of friendliness. But other times he was genuinely friendly with people on the street, and they knew him, because he grew up there and he'd been there for so long. And, there's this one, I tried to get it in the show. I can't remember what episode. It may be in there somewhere where it's his body cam footage, and it's his body cam footage, so you can't really see him. But he kind of goes out. They're getting a gun from a guy in like a liquor store, and he walks out while they're kind of handling the guy, and he sees these two ladies on the street, and they're talking him up, and they know him. And he's just like, "What's up, girl?" And he's talking to them. He's just like holding court with them in a way that they're asking him about his other partner. He's like, "Oh, yeah, no, that guy, he ain't here no more. No, he went over to another district. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm still here, And they're talking and they're laughing and they're like, "Boy, you too old now." And he's like, "Yeah, no, I know. And they're just going back and forth, these ladies. And there was something in there. I tried to put it in this one little section where these girls walk by while I'm walking to the car to search to search the car, and they look at me and I just go like, "What's up, girl?" I'm just trying to throw it in there. But, I think to your larger point, though, that is the sort of purpose he serves in this piece, right?
Right.
So on one level, it's not the Daniel Herschel story. If it was, maybe you fill out some of those things a little bit more. I think I was very aware of like what he represents for the story, and I get very excited about that, trying to figure out what my role is and how it helps tell the narrative and the story. And so I think when you're dealing with such gifted writing that's so layered and has such depth and nuance and so many things coming together, I'll talk again about that exposition because it is kind of remarkable, in the episode that just aired last night, it kind of culminates in that, which is like the first episode and a half, you see Herschel in his element a little bit. You see his brutality. You see him being mean. And you keep hearing Nicole Steele as she's interviewing everybody. "Oh, Herschel, he's the guy. He's the poster child." And so then they wrote this amazing scene that wasn't in there when I originally signed on, but they added it. And it was
in the bar?
I think that ends the episode.
Yeah.
And so I was really happy about it because as an actor, you're always kind of, no actor wants to hold exposition. You never want to say it. You understand that it's needed sometimes, but no actor wants to have to give it, right? Particularly in television when you're sort of having to sort of hold exposition and be like, oh, God, this is frustrating to get out. So the idea that they could handle all of that exposition about the character and paint this portrait of him and even see it in glimpses and then get to see him in his element, where I don't want to say like he charmed her in any way, because obviously he didn't, but where you see him in his environment in a Highlandtown bar with people that he knows, people that like him, and he's watching sports and he's having chicken wings and he gets to express his point of view. And it's not a point of view that me, Josh, necessarily agrees with, or most people wouldn't. But it is one that's expressed by a lot of police officers, particularly around that time. And so that's the kind of beauty of this writing, is that they give everybody a voice, and they let you kind of have that point of view. And and I think it's why The Wire sustains as well as it does. And I think this is why this is resonating. It just it can hold all of that, and that just makes it a richer experience. So I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed it just being home. I've been eager to film home for a while now, and to get to work with David and George and in the city that, raised me, and that feels very much a part of my identity. So I loved it. And I'll tell you this, we had the premiere up here. I couldn't make the Baltimore premiere because I'm filming a movie right now, and I was shooting that day. But the next day was the New York premiere, and we went. And afterwards, I was super tired because I just worked the day before. I had to work the next morning. And we watched it, and I'm sort of, during the screening, I don't even watch because I'm just like working on my lines for the next day. And then afterwards, we all get on stage, do a talk back. A bunch of the actors, David and George, and Ray, the director. And, it was, and D. Watkins sort of moderated it, and it was okay. I mean, it was just a lot of people, and I was tired, and I wanted to just go and have a bite to eat. But I will say this, there was a lot of interesting talk about about the show. But then, I think Daryl and Rob Brown, they started talking about just how much they love Baltimore, and it kind of grew into this sort of love fest where even David sort of chimed in as someone, I think he said, who is probably most accused of ruining Baltimore's reputation,
Right.
That everybody got to talk about, just really passionately about what a great city it is, how if you have a chance to go there, it's a beautiful city, it's a warm city, the people are amazing, and you have to spend time there. And it was just, I just was so happy because I'm normally the one that's saying that. And so the fact that I could just sit there and sort of bask in, this moment of just love and appreciation for Baltimore, that we can all know that this is maybe a painful story. Not maybe, it is a painful story.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
It's a story worth telling, and that there's also a lot of beautiful things about Baltimore too.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Josh Charles. I want to cover two more things with you if I could, because that was part of it, and I'll tell you, like my radio co-host Rita, she let on to me, and I did not know this. We had Justin on a couple weeks ago, and she said, I've never actually watched The Wire, and she said because it kind of hurts me. I know these stories. Like, I am Baltimore. I know I don't need it shoved back in my face. And I talked to her about it, and I was having this in-depth conversation about how what I kind of love is that, and I'm sure you probably have gotten it more than anybody else because you wear this city on your sleeve wherever you go. I'm sure people come up to you constantly. You're like, is Baltimore really just The Wire? Is that really what Baltimore is? And I don't know if it's something that you thought about as well when you get involved in the project, but I love the idea of, hey, every city's got warts. Every city has problems, but I love the fact that Baltimore artists have been able to make incredible art exploring the warts of the city over the years. And that, in a way, it's not all Baltimoreans. You clearly are a prominent one, but many people involved in the project are from Baltimore, and it's filmed here. It's not I think a tribute to what the city is capable of, that art of this magnitude, arguably The Wire being maybe the greatest television show in all time, and this is a wonderful series, being a Baltimore project. I think that's significant when we talk about this.
Yeah. I mean, I think both points of view are valid. I understand people feeling like they're too close to it. I think I experienced that filming it, in some of the neighborhoods where these things actually took place. and in some of the research and doing dialogues and seeing how people in the community have been affected. You know, the ripple effect that it's still reverberating years later in these communities. What the police officers did in that task force. You know, so you feel the sense of responsibility to it. I mean, I think, yeah, you're right. I mean, you know, I remember doing a movie in France, and like everybody's like, "Oh, you're from Baltimore, The Wire." Oh,
right,
The Wire.
right.
You know, and it's like one can appreciate the genius of The Wire, and you know, arguably the best television show of all time. But I think, you know, I wouldn't speak for those guys. Obviously, I would never dare. But I think that, you know, on some levels, it's a microcosm, that show, right? I mean, it is Baltimore, obviously, very uniquely Baltimore, but it's also a microcosm of you know, the cities in America.
Yes.
It's not unique to just Baltimore, a lot of the plight of what's happening.
Yes.
But Baltimore does have its own specific, unique issues, and I think, you know, David and George know it well. And I think the issue here was that, you know, they're trying to sort of, I mean, I think they said, you know, in a couple interviews we were all doing together, that this is like a coda, you know, to The Wire, you know, that a lot of these characters that are cops today, you know, they weren't cops when they finished writing The Wire, you know. This is the next generation. This is the sort of result of the bad decisions that a police department can make over time. And then here's what you get, right? And I think that's, you know, look, it's not made up, you know. So sometimes, you know, it's part of what I think art, you know, aspires to be, you know. Hold up that mirror, show people what's going on, and hope that, you know, it resonates with people, and can, you know, prevent stuff like this from happening again.
I completely agree.
I don't know that that'll happen.
No,
but
unfortunately,
I hope,
this is boy. I was going to say this is America, and did we get a lesson about that in the last 24 hours?
Oh my God!
Yeah,
Don't get me started.
I know it's a topic for a different day. Josh, the other one, I want to go back to the accent, because this is, I almost worry for you, man, that like this is going to be like when a band has a song that, like, my buddy Jimmy Haha from Jimmy's Chicken Shack can't go a day in his life without somebody asking him to play Do Right, right? Like, it's just sort of the way that it goes. Did you have, when you were young, did you have an accent at all? And I asked that because I didn't think I did. I moved out to Phoenix, and I remember a program director pulling me aside on day one when I got to Phoenix and being like, "Hey, what are we going to do about your accent?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
I totally had one, Glenn. I mean, there's tapes of me when Jimmy Carter was president. I have a tape of me reading my first book, and I was just like, "See Jack run up the hill." Jack and Jill run up the hill, you know, and then my dad's like, "Who's your favorite quarterback?" And I'm like, "Burt James," you know. So no, I mean, I absolutely had it, but I think like a lot of people, and I'm told that it still comes out maybe when I'm had a couple cocktails or, you know, I'm feeling a little loose. But by and large, I moved away from Baltimore really young. I went to New York, started acting young, New York, lived in L.A., and it's a kind of accent that I think you can just, you know, playing different parts and get more conscious of my voice. And so, you know, don't feel like I have, but it's always there. It's inside of me. You know, what was interesting about it was, you know, Herschel is the one character of the Gun Trace Task Force who's actually from Baltimore proper, right?
Yep.
From Highlandtown. And that was very important to me when I accepted the role, that I wanted to make sure that, you know, even if it's not clear in the sort of words, that we just make that clear into sort of how he presents himself and his sort of how comfortable he is and how he speaks. And so, yeah, and it's also an accent that, you know, you try to find that balance of, right? Because I know where it can become a caricature, you know, and you want to sort of find that moment because it's not a comedy. You don't want the voice to be sort of so in the way that it's sort of overpowering anything. And I was nervous about it because I felt a tremendous sense of responsibility. Well, fuck, you know, I'm from here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm playing this real guy in this real story, and this is my city. And, you know, I have my reputation on the line. Like, I got to deliver now. And I got nervous, you know, and I called a very well-respected dialect coach that I work with. And I said, look, I know I have this voice, but I'm just nervous. Do you mind if I just read some scenes with you and go over a couple things? You just tell me if I'm in the right direction, you know? And she did, you know, and she said, yeah, of course, you know, And I said, listen, I feel confident about it, but I just I need to bounce it off someone. I need to hear, and I worked with her for an hour, and she was like, you're good. You know what I mean? Just relax. You have it.
Yeah.
You're where I want people to be after I've worked with them for months. Like, this is in your bones. You have it. Just relax and just let it be and let it fly. And so that's what I did. And, it was truly like something I've always wanted to do. So and wanted it to be kind of specific to the character I was playing, because I got to listen to a lot in the research of his voice constantly, and all the body cam footage. It was a lot of what I did was just walk around New York City and listening to him. And his voice is kind of high in a little bit, for someone who's so brutal, and it has that quality about him. He also had a kind of high, goofy voice, and was kind of, his register was kind of up here.
Right, right.
All right, sir.
Right.
And that was kind of fun to play with the sort of juxtaposition of that. I found that really interesting, the sort of the duality of that. So that was fun to play with. And, I saw it was this tweet came out. I think, as Dave said, it was my favorite thing I've ever read. There was a guy said, there's many great things to dig about, the city. Not the least of which is that, Josh Charles gets to be put in the Regional Accent Hall of Fame.
Correct.
And I was like, I'm done. I'm done.
Dude,
That's it.
Is
a wrap. I'm finished. That's all I needed. I literally wrote, I think I tweeted, it was like the greatest thing anyone's ever said about me, and I'm done. That's a wrap.
What else can you do? What else could you possibly do? As a Baltimorean.
That's all I care about.
Correct. 100%. Brother, the show's so good, man. It is so bloody good. And
you're good, man. You're good. I love getting on here and chatting with you, and it's always fun, man. You're great. You're one of the great guys. So
I truly appreciate you. It means a lot to me, your friendship over the years, my friend, and I'm so happy for
absolutely.
you. Hey, dude.
Thanks, buddy.
We'll talk soon.
We'll
all
talk
right.
Soon.
Thanks, pal.
Okay. See you later, bud. Bye.
Josh Charles.
He's the best, man. My God, he's the best. If you're not watching, and look, I appreciate what Rita said, that she struggles with it because it just hits very close to home. This is a different story than The Wire is a more overarching story of a city, despite the fact that it's fictional. Whereas We Own the City is a very truthful story. There's a couple of things that they take liberties with, like as Justin Fenton pointed out, the Nicole Steele character, or the woman that's leading things. They put in the consent decree. There is no such woman in the book. Like there is no such woman existed. That was a character they invented for the television show. But they stay very true to the book otherwise, right? This is a very truthful story, but it's very isolated within this group. It's the Gun Trace Task Force. It's not really Baltimore's a character in the story more than the story. Baltimore isn't the story. Baltimore's a character in the story. So I get where Rita's coming from, but the show is so bloody good. It's so well done, which isn't surprising for a David Simon project. And given the quality of actor that's involved with it, not just Josh, but Jamie Hector and Delaney Williams we had on last week, it's such an insanely good television program. And that's even when I said that to Rita, I'm like, Rita, I understand how you're feeling, but I would just watch The Wire for its art value. Like as a piece of art, it's unreal. And We Own This City is that caliber of art. It's phenomenal.
Fun fact about the show. So my brother-in-law is a Harford County sheriff.
Ah, yes. So
and he knows the guy.
Yeah, for the McDougal.
Yeah, he knows McDougal.
Yep.
The real McDougal is the cop
Yep.
leaning up against the car.
Yep.
I guess maybe people know this.
Well, a lot of these, I think like Justin in particular has put out a lot of these Easter eggs each week as the show has been airing. Like, hey, you can see this person in this episode. There's been a lot of that, but yeah, I happened to see that one too. That McDougal was involved, which
he's a guy leaning up.
Which is the reason why this all came out, by the way.
Yeah.
Like this, if not for the Harford County Police, we never know about. Well, probably at some point we end up finding. I can't imagine it's still going on to this day. But they were how this all kind of came out and came into light. It's wild. All right. Speaking of the Charles family, Stan the Fan, he and Ross Grimsley had a chat with Luke Jackson last night covering this cover story about Adley Rutschman. So you can read the cover story by picking up the new print issue of PressBox, and you can watch that show last night at facebook.com/PressBoxSports, PressBoxOnline.com/video, or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline. When we come back in, we got to go top 5 tidbit tubular quickly because we got to get to Simply the Bets. It's all on the way. Glenn Clark Radio. The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, diving into where his passion for baseball and for catching comes from and how he uses that passion to elevate those around him in the Orioles organization. Also inside, Bo Smolka takes a look at how the Ravens' 2021 draft picks can make progress in year 2, and Glenn Clark offers a very unique tribute to former rival Mike Krzyzewski that all Maryland fans can appreciate. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people, people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball-cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
We can't imagine why you'd want to, but you can watch GCR live. It's at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. And try to guess whether these guys are wearing any pants.
Cass is a big Josh Charles fan now. Cass is all in. That's the way good to go. All right, we gotta go through this quickly. Cass, what's your top 5 for this week? What's the theme?
Okay, so actually this
Can you turn Cass up a little bit? Thank you. Go ahead.
This wasn't my idea, but I liked the idea.
Okay.
So it was top 5 like TV shows that you'd want to be like in. Like if you could be in a TV show. Like let's say
in it, like you mean as an actor or in like
like let's say it was real life.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like let's say it was just like
so how do you list Boy Meets World 5 times? I don't understand how that works.
That would not be mine.
That's
Sorry,
that's the
Topanga.
singular answer. Did you say Topanga?
Topanga.
Topanga, yeah.
I say Topanga.
Topanga.
Yeah.
Old
It sounds weird
Topanga.
to say like Topanga.
Topanga.
Doesn't sound right.
Topanga.
Anyway. So I was gonna say for number 5, you guys are gonna laugh. I was gonna say South Park, but then I
What?
Listen. But then I was like, let me go back to my childhood roots.
Okay.
And I chose Fairly Odd Parents.
I never was. It was after me. I just don't know much about Fairly Odd Parents.
Big Fairly Odd Parents, but only if I was like the girl version of Timmy Turner, and I got like Fairly Odd Parents.
I'm willing to. I'm sorry. I can't add anything at all.
That's
I'm
okay.
so
You
sorry. I
don't
can't
have
add
to.
anything at all to it. It's everything about being a part of an animated series seems weird, but we'll go with it.
I just wanted to put one
All right.
cartoon.
All right.
Okay.
Number 4.
Number 4 would be Criminal Minds.
Okay. My wife loves Criminal Minds.
Because I would be the love interest
Wait,
of Spencer
hang on a
Reid.
second. Does she love Criminal Minds or does she love NCIS? I feel like NCIS. What's the one with the girl with the hair? Is that NCIS?
NCIS where she's like
She's got the Polly Perrette, I believe is her name. Is that her name?
Like
Is
the
she-
pigtails.
is she
and,
Yes,
blonde?
that girl.
Is she
yeah.
blonde?
No,
I think
black
that's
hair.
NCIS.
Black hair,
Okay,
that's
then it's NCIS.
I love
Which one's
NCIS.
Criminal Minds?
Criminal Minds is like Spencer Reed, Shamar Moore. It's like the really handsome like dude.
Oh, I do know Criminal Minds. Yeah. Oh no, she loves this show too. Never mind. She loves this show too.
I would
and the
love
guy
to be
and
in
the
that.
and the guy with the long hair.
Spencer Reed.
That's who that is. Okay. All right.
We
Oh,
love
easy,
Spencer
easy
Reed.
over there.
I'd be the love interest of
Okay,
Spencer Reed.
all right,
That's why
I
I want
get
to be
it.
in it. Number
Shamar Moore is still very handsome. How old is he? He's got to be like in his 50s. He's
Doesn't
very
matter. He's
handsome.
like a Brad
Oh,
Pitt.
he's very handsome.
He can just live handsomely.
Oh my God! When you search him, he's 52. The first thing that comes up is a picture of him with
No,
his shirt
he's
off. I told you he had to be in his 50s. He's
52?
very. By the way, I don't know when that picture was from, but Jesus Christ, I got to reconsider whether or not I'm straight. Like, holy hell!
And now you see why I want to
Oh,
be
I'm
a
with
part
you.
of the show.
I'm with you.
Thank
All
you.
right, number 3.
Okay, number 3 is New Girl.
I love New Girl.
I would
do love
love to
New
be a
Girl.
New Girl.
I would. We attempted at one point, some friends of ours, to play Young Americans, like where you just make up your own rules in order to play it. I love New Girl. I was all in on it when they brought Darling Love out for the Christmas episode, and she's singing in the street. Oh, God, it was just. The funny thing is, I'm not even like a big Zooey Deschanel fan. Like,
oh, I love her.
everybody does because she's quirky and she's cute and the whole thing. Like, I don't dislike her in any way, but I'm not like a big fan.
Mhm.
But my God, and Jake Johnson's perfect. Jesus Christ, he's perfect. I mean,
It's
like,
just they picked the right people for
yeah,
that show.
they
It was
really
perfect.
did.
For number 2, it would be Teen Wolf.
I never, this is a funny thing. Wait, do you mean the new one?
The new one,
Yeah,
not the
the
original.
first, the movie
There's an
was the Michael J.
original.
Fox
Yeah, yeah,
movie,
yeah.
right? I've no, like, I am not connected at all with the new Teen Wolf.
It's great. I've watched it at least 3 times all the way through. It's me and my sister's
But
show.
why do you want to be because you want to meet a kid that turns into a wolf?
No, it's just like, I don't know, like the family, like they like it's kind of like everyone in their group and their friendship, and then also it's like
See, this is like I get New Girl because it's the way that everybody of a certain age treated friends. Like you wanted to believe that you had this group of your coven, if you will, that was like family, and you did everything together, and everybody cared so deeply. It's like creating a new family. The Teen Wolf thing, I don't think I fully understand quite the same way. But again, I haven't watched
you
the
haven't
show.
watched
That's fair.
it.
All right.
And also Dylan O'Brien's in it. That's
All right,
another reason.
Whatever. Number 1.
Number 1 would be Bridgerton.
Because everybody's so good looking.
I mean, that helps, but
Yeah.
like, could you imagine being able to just like, I don't know, get dressed up and it's all like romance? And it's
Yeah,
just so fun.
it's gonna
like,
not be for me for
it's
sure.
for me,
It's
definitely.
definitely not
I think
for
it's
me.
great.
I like this premise, and I would have to think about it a little bit more because I mean, like, it would probably be more shows like correlating with my adolescence, my coming of age is probably the way that I would fit. And that's why Boy Meets World would be number 1 on the list because like you and your best friend just running around, you fall in love with the pretty, like the whole thing, like everything about that is what resonates with you. I'd have to think about what else would be on my own
And
list.
like I was really upset because like I think it was last weekend or my sister went with her friend to DC to go to the Bridgerton event.
Oh,
It
the
was, like-
Bridgerton Ball.
Yes,
I
and she,
heard
like-
lots about the Bridgerton Ball.
And she like wore her like bridesmaid dress. She looked gorgeous, by the way. But it was just so fun. I really wanted to go, but I couldn't. And it was just like it was really cool. Like you just got to see everyone dress up, and I don't know. It's like in today's world, there's if you dress like that, that's like blasphemy. Like everyone's gonna make fun of you.
Yes, there's definitely gonna be a lot of making fun of you.
So,
if you
like,
shut up.
it would be
so
really-
do it. So come in on Friday dressed up like you're in
No,
Bridgerton.
it would just be a
do
cool
it. I dare
experience.
you. You won't do it.
Where do I even find a dress
That's
like that?
part
Amazon
of the problem.
Prime.
All right, good job, Cass. Good
You
top
named
5. Thank you.
5 shows that I have not watched at all.
Any of them? You never watched New Girl?
I watched like
New Girl was a very popular show
New-
for people
New-
our age.
New Girl's the only one that I even watched.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch any of the other shows either.
It
But
was hard because I was gonna put Friends or that '70s show, but then I was
yeah,
like,
that makes
"Ugh."
it a similar concept. It's a
just
group of friends.
everything's so
Everybody wants to be in that
similar,
group of
yeah.
friends. Exactly right. All right, quickly, tidbits.
All right. So as we mentioned earlier, last night was the 19th time in 23 games an Oriole starter allowed 3 runs or less. Similarly, last season through 23 games, an Oriole starter allowed 3 runs or less 17 times. So we need to take it with a grain of salt. The Orioles team ERA right now is 3.60, whereas last year at this point it was 4.20. And last year's team ultimately lost 110 games, and they had a better record at this point than the Orioles do now. So again, grain of salt. If miraculously the Orioles pitching holds up all season, it would mark just the 5th time since the 1985 season that the Orioles pitched to a sub-4 ERA as a team. The other years were 1992, 97, 2012, and 2014. Can you name...
Most of those years were good years, but 92 is kind of a misnomer. I mean, 92, they were fine. They just weren't very good as a team.
Yeah, they were like 80. They won
Yeah.
like 88 games,
Yeah.
something like that. Can you name the 10 combined starting pitchers between those 4
Jesus
seasons?
Christ, no.
With sub-4 ERAs that started at least 15
All right, you said
games?
92, 97.
2012 and 2014.
12 and 14. So Messina.
He did it twice in 92 and 97.
Was it Sutcliffe?
No.
Was it McDonald?
No.
Who else would have been in 92 then? All right, hang on. Let me think about the other years. 97. Erickson?
Mm-hmm.
Tillman?
Tillman's done it twice.
How about 97?
He was a Blue Jay at one point. And I believe he was a Yankee at one point.
So I was thinking it was Scott Kamenicki, but...
No. His ERA was just above 4.
That bum. That guy sucks. Get him off the team.
What an idiot.
He can't work. Oh, Jimmy Key.
Jimmy Key.
Yeah, Jimmy Key for sure. So anybody else from 97?
No.
Okay.
The 92 one, a hint here is he was better known as a reliever.
Better known as a reliever.
With the Orioles.
With the Orioles. Arthur Rhodes.
Arthur Rhodes.
Yeah, I do remember him being a starter. And then how about Wei-Yin Chen?
Wei-Yin Chen did it in 2014.
Miguel Gonzalez.
He did it twice in 2012 and 2014.
I don't think it was Ubaldo Jimenez.
Nope. He was the only one in that rotation without a sub-4 ERA.
Hamill?
Jason Hamill did it in 2012.
Am I missing anybody?
2.
We got to wrap up. God, all right, just tell me because we got to wrap.
Bud Norris and Kevin Gossman.
Oh, I'm surprised that Gossman had a. God.
He had 15
By the
starts
way,
that year and had like a 3.61.
What Kevin Gossman is doing this season.
Oh, he's a monster.
Ungodly.
This is what we thought he was going to be in Baltimore.
It's utterly insane. If you have not seen how well Kevin Gossman is pitching. By the way, John Proctor reminds me it was Real American, not Young American. I don't know why I said Young American. That was the game they played in New Girl. Oh, Cassidy just wrote down the word trash on a piece of paper, and I was like, what? And she was just calling me trash because of how I fared in that. What a jerk. Cass does this sometimes where she's a great teammate, and then all of a sudden anyway.
You're trash.
Join a proud new generation of Baltimore police. Make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages, excellent benefits on day one. Join for good. BPDrecruit.org. She called me trash because I only got an 80% because I ran out of time. It wasn't even that it was that bad.
Well, you put the time limit on yourself.
Yeah, I know. Masson tonight, Orioles Twins, 7 o'clock. Joe Ryan, Bruce Zimmerman, the pitching matchup. Maryland baseball after the perfect game over the weekend. By the way, I believe Ryan Ramsey's joining us tomorrow. 6:30 tonight. They host Georgetown on Big Ten Network Plus. As I mentioned, Bucknell Loyola at 3, Navy Lehigh at 7, and the Patriot League tournament on ESPN Plus. Capitals Panthers game 1 tonight at 7:30 on ESPN 2. It's also on NBC Sports Washington. TNT Bucks Celtics game 2 at 7. Warriors Grizzlies game 2 at 9:30. No TV for Champions League this afternoon. Leg 2 between Villarreal and Liverpool at 3 on Paramount Plus. Anything non-sports, just a highlight or two?
Mr. Mayor tonight, Benedict at 8:30 on NBC. Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And Hold Your Breath, The Ice Dive. It's a new Netflix documentary.
Sure. We'll go with that. I have no idea. No clue what any of that means. All right. Gross. What was that? I don't know what happened there. All right, very good. Thanks today to Josh Charles. Thanks also to Patrick Stevens as well as to Chris Sims. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Archives.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. As I mentioned, I think Ryan Ramsey's joining us after he threw his perfect game for Maryland. Stuff and things. I'm working on it. We'll let you know about it. Thanks today to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Baltimore Police, Grade 8 Memorabilia, FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Cass, social media, quickly.
Instagram, Cassidy_Elizabeth22, and then Twitter, CassidyButler5.
All right. Thanks to Paul at Paul Valley III. Thanks to Ryan at RexSpexRyan. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday night. Go Birds, go Loyola, go Navy. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too. If you're watching us, do like 30-second break, then hit refresh. We'll have a new video for you. If you're listening, do nothing. Simply the Bets is coming up next.